Every life has a story. But for those on death row, the final chapter often begins with a simple question. What would you like for your last meal? Today we explore the intriguing and sometimes poignant choices made by inmates facing their final moments. The tradition of last meals has a long history in the justice system. It's a chance for inmates to experience a sense of normalcy, to reclaim a small piece of their humanity before facing their fate. Some requests are simple, humble even, perhaps reflecting a desire for comfort in the face of the unknown. Others are surprisingly elaborate, a final indulgence before their sentence is carried out. But what drives these choices? Are they a window into the inmate's soul, a final grasp at earthly pleasures, or simply a way to exert some control in their final hours? Join me now as we delve into the stories behind the last meals of death row inmates. Our journey begins with Victor Feguer. Found guilty of kidnapping and murder, Feguer's life was set on a trajectory that would end on March 15, 1963, at the Iowa State Penitentiary. His last meal request was a strange and minimalist one, a single olive with the pit left in. Why an olive? Why just one? Was it a final act of defiance, a rejection of the system that condemned him? Or did it hold a deeper, more personal significance? Perhaps Feguer saw in that small, unassuming fruit a reflection of his own life, a life cut short, full of unrealized potential. The olive, with its pit intact, could also be interpreted as a symbol of hope, a belief in some form of continuation, even after death. The pit, after all, contains the seed for a new tree. Whatever his reasons, Feguer's choice continues to fascinate, a stark reminder of the human capacity for both the ordinary and the extraordinary in the face of death. In stark contrast to Feguer's austere last meal, we have the case of Gary Carl Simmons Jr. Convicted of murder and dismemberment, Simmons requested a final feast that has become almost legendary in its sheer volume. His death row meal in 2012 comprised a Pizza Hut medium, super supreme deep dish pizza with double portions of mushrooms, onions, jalapeno peppers, and pepperoni. Another pizza with 3 cheeses, olives, bell pepper, tomato, garlic, and Italian sausage, 10 8-ounce packs of Parmesan cheese, 10 8-ounce packs of ranch dressing, a family-sized bag of Doritos nacho cheese flavor, 8-ounce jalapeno nacho cheese, 4-ounce sliced jalapenos, 2 large strawberry shakes, 2 20-ounce cherry cokes, a supersized order of McDonald's fries with extra ketchup and mayonnaise, and 2 pints of strawberry ice cream. This wasn't just a meal. It was an extravaganza, a final blowout before the curtain fell. Was Simmons trying to numb himself with food, to create a sensory overload that would block out the impending reality? Or was it a last act of rebellion, a way to thumb his nose at the system one final time? Whatever the reason, Simmons' meal stands in stark contrast to the gravity of his crimes. It forces us to confront the complex reality of human nature, where even in the face of death, the desire for pleasure, for comfort, can still hold sway. Our next story takes us into the world of culinary disappointment, even in the face of death. Thomas J. Grasso, convicted of murder, had a specific and detailed last meal request. He wanted 2 dozen steamed mussels, 2 dozen steamed clams, a double cheeseburger from Burger King, 6 barbecue spare ribs, 2 milkshakes, a tin of SpaghettiOs with meatballs, half a pumpkin pie and strawberries and cream. This elaborate order, a mix of comfort food and perhaps a touch of nostalgia, speaks to the human desire for familiar pleasures, even in the final moments. However, fate, it seems, had other plans. Due to a misunderstanding in the kitchen, Grasso was served spaghetti instead of his requested SpaghettiOs. His last words reportedly were, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs, I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." There's a certain tragicomedy to this final statement. Even facing his own mortality, Grasso clung to the importance of having his final wish granted, highlighting the significance we often place on these last acts of autonomy. Was it simply about the food itself? Or was it about something more profound? A final assertion of his own identity, a need to be heard, even in death? Grasso's story serves as a poignant reminder that even the smallest details can take on enormous significance in the shadow of death. From culinary disappointments, we move to a request laced with a hint of rebellion. Gary Gilmore, convicted of robbery and murder, requested a simple last meal: 1 hamburger, hard-boiled eggs, 1 baked potato, several cups of coffee. but it was his final request that added a layer of intrigue to his story. 3 shots of contraband, Jack Daniel's whiskey. Gilmore's request reflects a desire for the familiar, the comfort of a simple meal. The inclusion of alcohol, however, speaks to a desire to break free from constraints, even in his final moments. Was it a final act of defiance against the system that imprisoned him, or a way to dull the fear and anxiety of his impending fate? Gilmore's last meal, a blend of the ordinary and the forbidden, reminds us that even in death, the human spirit seeks solace and release in its own unique way. Our next story takes us into the world of culinary indulgence. Alan Lee Davis, convicted of murder, requested a last meal that spoke of freedom and the finer things in life. 1 lobster tail, fried potatoes, half a pound of fried shrimp, 6 ounces of fried clams, half a loaf of garlic bread, and 32 ounces of A&W root beer. This wasn't just a meal, it was an escape, a temporary reprieve from the confines of his reality. The seafood, a delicacy often associated with celebration and luxury, stands in stark contrast to the sterile environment of death row. Did Davis, through his last meal, seek to recapture a taste of the life he once knew, a life of freedom and indulgence? Or was it a way to reclaim a sense of control, to dictate one final act of pleasure before his own fate was decided for him? Davis's last meal, a symphony of flavors and textures, reminds us that even in the face of death, the human spirit yearns for beauty, for escape, for a connection to the world beyond the prison walls. While many inmates use their last meal as a chance for culinary indulgence or to make a statement, others choose a different path. Ted Bundy, one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, declined a special last meal. Perhaps it was an act of defiance, a refusal to participate in a system he saw as flawed. Or maybe in the face of his crimes, he felt undeserving of any special treatment, even a final meal of his choosing. In refusing a last meal, Bundy's story stands as a stark reminder of the complexity of the human psyche, particularly in the face of unimaginable acts. It challenges our understanding of remorse and guilt, leaving us to ponder the motivations of a man who had taken so many lives. Next, we have John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown who terrorized Cook County, Illinois, requested a last meal of fried chicken, shrimp, and a chocolate cake. It's a meal that speaks to a desire for comfort, for the familiar flavors of childhood and celebration. The choice of fried chicken, a staple of American comfort food, hints at a longing for simpler times, perhaps a time before his crimes cast a dark shadow over his life. The shrimp, a more indulgent choice, could be seen as a final grasp at pleasure, a reminder of the good life he once enjoyed. And the chocolate cake? A final taste of sweetness, a bittersweet reminder of birthdays and celebrations, now forever out of reach. Gacy's request, a blend of indulgence and nostalgia, highlights the complex interplay of good and evil that can exist within a single human being. It's a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the human soul, there can still be flickers of humanity, remnants of the people they once were. Our final story takes us into the mind of Timothy McVeigh, the man responsible for the Oklahoma City bombing, one of the deadliest acts of domestic terrorism in American history. For his last meal, McVeigh requested 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. This seemingly simple request is both perplexing and chilling. In the face of such a horrific act, the choice of a sweet treat seems jarring, almost inappropriate. Was it an act of denial, a way to cling to a sense of normalcy in the face of his impending death? Or was it a calculated move, a way to control the narrative and portray himself as detached and unemotional? McVeigh's choice of mint chocolate chip ice cream, a flavor often associated with childhood and innocence, stands in stark contrast to the gravity of his crimes. It serves as a chilling reminder of the human capacity for both good and evil, and the unsettling reality that sometimes the most monstrous acts are committed by those who appear utterly ordinary. The last meals of death row inmates offer a fascinating, albeit unsettling, glimpse into the human psyche. Beyond personal preferences, these choices can reveal cultural backgrounds, personal histories, and even psychological states. Food, in many ways, reflects who we are and where we come from. The last meal can serve as a reflection of the inmate's life, their heritage, and their memories. It's a final connection to the world outside, a last opportunity to savor the flavors they once held dear. These meals, however, are not just about the food itself. They are about the meaning we attach to them, the stories they tell, and the questions they raise. The topic of last meals often ignites broader conversations about the death penalty itself. Is it a humane practice? What do these final requests say about our society? While the last meal is a small detail in the complex narrative of justice, it leaves us with questions about morality, empathy, and the choices we make. In the end, what does it mean to dine for the last time? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.